Former American football hero O.J. Simpson has died at the age of 76. His family says he passed away in Las Vegas following a battle with cancer. O.J. was a legend in the NFL, primarily with the Buffalo Bills. Off the pitch, he starred in numerous movies and TV series. His most well-known role was Nordberg in the Naked Gun films. Then in 1994, millions around the world watched him lead police on a low-speed car chase through Los Angeles after he was accused of murdering his ex-wife and her male friend. And then in 1995, they tuned in to follow the trial in which he was controversially cleared of the charges. But a decade later, he was sentenced to 33 years in prison for an unrelated armed robbery before being released in October 2017. Let's get more from entertainment journalist KJ Matthews in Los Angeles. So welcome back to the day, KJ. How do you think O.J. is going to be remembered?
Thank you. I would say that O.J. is one of the most complicated figures to ever live in this world. His legacy is really one of before and after the double murder acquittal of his ex-wife and her friend. You had O.J., who was a football star. He had 11 seasons in the NFL. He had an excellent acting career in a lot of popular films like Naked Gun. He was the spokesperson for a car rental company. He was really beloved. He was that all-American hero until he was accused, charged, and then later acquitted of killing his second ex-wife and her friend, and that's when everything went downhill. And unfortunately, or fortunately, any way you want to look at it, you will not have O.J.'s name mentioned, I believe, ever without the word murder and without the word acquittal in the same sentence, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Because we're going back to 95, but this was a case that not only was shown on live television, the case and the chase, but also split America, perhaps black against white, in a crime that everyone had an opinion about.
You know, it's really interesting. During that time, I'm a Los Angeles native. I went away to school in New York, and I just graduated out of graduate school, and I just got back and had my first job. And I remember the day that they were going to release the verdict. They gave people like a 2 to 3 hour window to leave work early. That's how important it was. Like literally all of Los Angeles, they wanted to get off work early and get home before the verdict was released. It was just, I've never seen anything like it. And then of course they have the slow speed chase, a year or so before that. But yes, it ripped the country. I think it ripped the world. I believe that this chase, as well as the verdict and the trial, was watched all around the world. That was really before you had court TV and you had all the trials and the judges with all their shows now. This was really the original reality TV show, the O.J. Simpson case.
And a gift for rolling TV news channels, which were only just getting started then.
You know, I was just thinking earlier today, a car chase back in like 1990s, and you had a helicopter and it live on television, it was something that stopped all of Los Angeles. Today, there are so many car chases in LA every single week that nobody stops what they're doing. And if you tell somebody there's a car chase, they then say, you know, what do you want for lunch? It's just not that big of a thing. We have surpassed all of that in those decades because it was almost 30 years ago. But back then, there were no car chases on television, and especially not with someone like O.J. Simpson. People were riveted because they didn't know what was going to happen. He had threatened suicide. They didn't know if he was going to go to the cemetery where his ex-wife was. Was he going to go back home to his home in Brentwood? Was he going to turn himself in? It was just so mind-boggling to even think of something like that happening back then.
And then, of course, the trial, which gave a massive audience to O.J.'s lawyer, Johnny Cochran. And, of course, that famous bloody glove that O.J. struggled to fit on his hand. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
That, I'm telling you, that saying stays with Johnny Cochran. I mean, Johnny Cochran has he's passed away now, obviously, back in 2005 of a brain tumor. But that slogan was forever linked with Johnny Cochran. And a lot of people felt that it was that O.J. Simpson struggling to fit that bloody glove on his hand in front of the jurors, in front of the world, that really helped sink the prosecution's case. However, there are a lot of people say it was split along racial lines, and a lot of people weren't really convicting him as much so as they were convicting the judicial system. And, so many, I think, law schools and people even to this day still debate the case on the merit and the jurors and whether justice was served. It's just such a strange case that is, and an anomaly for sure.
And then he ended up behind bars for a completely separate armed robbery. For all of this talent that he had his demons.
His ego, his frustration, his anger got the best of him. He claims that he saw some people steal some memorabilia that was his, and all he was going to do was go into a hotel room and collect what was his. And of course, it was wrong. They claimed they bought it. Later, he was charged with robbery. But a lot of people felt like the sentence that he was given, I think it was more than 30 years, was really too much for that particular crime, and that he was being really prosecuted or convicted or really kind of given this long sentence because he was found not guilty of the murder of his ex-wife and her friend years ago. So he was sentenced to, I think, like 33 years, but he ended up serving 9 years before getting out and ended up staying in Vegas, which is where he passed away today.
So if we delve a little deeper then into his TV and film work, what stands out most for you?
Naked Gun and him running for that Hertz commercial. I'll be honest with you, O.J. Simpson really had a career that was enviable, I think, for a lot of athletes before he had troubles and before he was ever charged with a double murder. He really had a smooth transition out of the NFL world into the Hollywood world. He was offered a lot of parts. He even was kind of like a spokesperson, doing a little bit of sports reporting. Then he had the brand deals. He had a lot of things that a lot of athletes want to have after they retire from the NFL. And people just really, really loved him. And so he really lost all of that, obviously, when he was charged, accused, and then later acquitted of murdering his ex-wife and her friend. Everything just went downhill after that. But it's really just a marvelous case, I think, if you look back at. But yes, his legacy is one that is controversial, to say the least.
Wow. Lovely talking to you as ever, KJ, entertainment journalist KJ Matthews. Thank you.
Thank you.